And then I see we've got a comment from Tanya. Maritza saying amazing and powerful. Thank you, Maritza. That's wonderful. That's always fabulous to hear. Great feedback. Anybody else? Any final thoughts from anybody, or should I just hand over to Selvin? And Selvin, if you want to lead us to the end of this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. I'm sure there are one or two more people. There's Tony's hand up. Tony, over to you.
Thanks very much for allowing an old guy to ask a question, because there's so many young and dynamic questions I can see bubbling there. So this is my question, Louise. How do we ensure our own mental health when we're confronted by this profound complexity where we feel that we're just not coping? Can we somehow just give up the idea that we have to be X or Y and have to comply? Help us.
So Tony, I mean, you're asking the rebel to respond to that response. I don't think compliance is an option. I do think it's time for us to really, this idea that the delivery vehicle of my expertise is my humanity, and therefore I need to care for who I am as a human being. And so us as leaders need as much as anybody else, we need to feel a sense of belonging, and that our voices matter, and that we are being cared for and treated with respect and compassion as anybody else. And so I often say, I think we are often we tougher on ourselves than anybody else. It's because we're not looking at ourselves with soft eyes. In the same way that our colleagues require us to look at them with soft eyes and compassion, we also need to do that with ourselves. So Tony, we have to do better at creating support structures for ourselves, and structures where we are nurtured and cared for. So, the ideas of only supporting the people who are at the front line and not acknowledging that the leaders also need support. And because we are often so empathetic and compassionate about other people that we lose our own sense of well-being. So cannot agree more with the kind of subtext there, that we have to invest in our own well-being. I see Becca and Masejos up on unmuted, or sorry, put their hands up. So and then Belinda's got a very good question here. So Becca, over to you.
So Louise, my question relates to, is what are your thoughts on the first step, right? Contracting or getting agreement. If in the context of you're a leader and you think you want to go in a direction, and there's a number of people in the team, I don't know, 5, 12, and do you start by getting agreement that there needs to be change, or you start by direction and say we have to journey towards a change? And what if you started by direction? Yeah. What if there's no agreement on direction?
Exactly. So Becky, I've been in so many sessions where leaders have said, here's where we're going to go. And now I want to know, are you on the bus or off the bus? And I feel very bad about the fact that I contributed to many of those slide packs many years ago. I think it's very disrespectful for a leader to come and present a solution to a group of people who were not invited to contribute to that solution. And if we are going to present a solution, there's ways in which we can do that. I would always suggest that, yes, the leader could come with, here's my suggestion, here's what I think we should do. But now what I want to know from you guys is this doable? And what do we need to do to make sure that this is successful? And where are the possible challenging, so that the people in that organization feel that they are contributing and that their voice and contribution is valued. Becca, so I think we get ourselves in trouble when we say, here's where we're going to go, when we haven't engaged people in that kind of creation of that direction. And I know it takes longer up front, but in the long run, when people feel that they've co-created the solution, they own the solution. And then we don't have to do all that work to kind of get buy-in and commitment because it's there's already, and we've got so many examples of that. Maseja, we are running out of time, but let's quickly hear your thoughts, and then I'm going to hand over to Selwyn.
All right, thank you so much, Louise. I think you've actually covered part of the things that I wanted to say. Just to say, I think also it's important that we understand that leadership is not necessarily about the title, and maybe if we can take part, all of us, in understanding that we are leaders in our respective way. As a teacher, as a principal, understanding that I've got a role to play. Do you understand? And then once the actual leader, the principal, like you were saying, is involving the other party, the subordinate, it becomes easier for them to come to the party because they can see that they are needed. They can see that their input is also recognized. So once we look at it as this is one leader, the principal is the leader, then I think sometimes we lose it. And that is one of the challenges that I've seen happening in our local schools, because now all the burden goes to this one person and they must decide, they must come up with suggestions. And when the pass rate is bad, it comes back to the principals. So when we understand our role and also understand that we are a team, in our respective environment, it will make our roles a bit easier because it is not a one-man show at the end of the day. So I wish we can also look at it that way and say we are really working towards being our own leader and taking part individually, and to ensure that we make comprehensive decisions at the end of the day, which are at the best interest of the school, or rather the children. Thank you so much, Louise.
Thank you, Maseja. And that's an amazing contribution. I think a fantastic contribution to end. Now, I do see Elton's hand. I think, Selvin, what we should do is we should ask you to make your request. And then if there's a little bit of more time for people to engage. But Maseja, I just want to say, can I just quickly check? Maseja, are you an educator in HOD, a principal?
No, I am none of that above, Louise. I'm actually a business partner with one of the educators here.
Okay, so Maseja's got a perspective here that I just think is incredibly valuable, and that is about sharing the burden, because it can become unbearable for principals to feel they have to do it all. And if they could share it and get other people to each carry their part of the burden, then and the opportunity, then we can get so much more done. Selvin, over to you.
So I'm going to say the following, Elton and others, please don't rush off. I'm going to do some formalities, and then I'm sure we could spend an extra 10 minutes in conversation as we end. All right. So I can see this topic is raising some beautiful thoughts. So don't rush. All right. So in terms of just closing off, we need your feedback. One of the key things that we do at School Leadership Forum is to get your feedback, and we are posting the link to today's feedback form in the chat. Nonhlanhla has posted it there, and we're going to ask you to click on that link and answer a few questions for us. If you can't open the link in the chat, if you click on it and it doesn't open, copy the link and put it into your browser and then click, and then it will open. But firstly, if you can't click in the chat and open, copy the link out into your browser and then click on it and answer the questions. So there are about 3 or 4 questions. Please help us just getting good feedback. And thank you, Nonhlanhla, for posting the link. While we're doing that,
can I just say, one of the reasons why we need the feedback is you saw Helene earlier, and Helene is from MySchool, and MySchool is asking us for what did people say, and if we don't have the data to give to Helene, then we may not get funding to continue to do School Leadership Forum. So this is really important. So your feedback is like gold dust for us. So please, if you can just click on that link and give us your feedback, that would be amazing. Thanks, Alvin.
I like the analogy of gold dust. It is gold dust, because that's what we appreciate so much. So while we're doing that in the background, I want to say in closing, I learned something very important this afternoon, and I'm going to say it like this. when you're dealing with people and things are not safe, they ghost you, they go underground. And a lot of our work is, when we're trying to work with people and things are going tough, they either go quiet on us, they disappear, or they just become totally, passive aggressive. They're in the room, but they're not participating. And so this afternoon, I learned a lot about that this afternoon, Louise. So thank you. And then the other thing that I love that you did this afternoon, the way you brought us to land, understanding the simple, complex, complicated, and then the fourth one, if I'm
Chaotic.
correct, chaotic. That for me was a shift. Let me understand, what am I dealing with? I think that's important, that we know what we're dealing with. So thank you. And then thank you to everyone who participated this afternoon. We really appreciate your participation, your being in the room, and willingness to share. And then lastly, to the team behind the scenes, thank you, Nonhlanhla and Lizzie. You won't know what's happening behind the scenes. There are people moving things, touching things, the technology people, and then the people who plan. Nonhlanhla, who works very hard at this, and I want to just commend Nonhlanhla and Lizzie for the hard work put into this afternoon's discussion. Nonhlanhla, do you want to tell us, are you getting lots of feedback forms from people? Any idea, Nonhlanhla?
I can't see them now because we're busy with them, but I'll just check now again.
Okay. Thank you, Nonhlanhla. Thank you. So if you have to leave, it's 4:28. I want to say to you, thank you so much for being part of this afternoon. We're going to spend a few more minutes, Louise, if that's okay, for people who want to engage. Alton's hand is still raised very high. We can engage for a few more minutes in this conversation. And I want to say to you, have a wonderful afternoon. And for our educators who are going on a break tomorrow, our teachers, our principals, please take every opportunity to put your feet into some water or walk on a mountain or spend time with your family and friends. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thanks, Louise.
Thank you.
Over to you.
I wanted to hear from Elton, if Elton's still with us. And then I also want to respond to a point that Belinda raised earlier in the chat, where she said, how do you deal with, I can't remember, she had a question around resistance. So how do you contract with people when there's resistance? It is important for us to develop a theory of how to deal with resistance. And we often talk about resistance is actually just a manifestation of some concern. And the resistance shows up because people feel unable to voice their concern. And that we think our advocacy around this is that the role of the leader is to create a space for the concern to be uncovered. That sometimes people behave resistantly because they're not even aware of their own concern. And so their whole DNA is designed to kind of resist what's coming their way because they haven't had a chance to engage with it. So that beautiful practice of inviting dissent and inviting people to speak their concern, because the moment we've spoken it, it loses its hold on us. So Belinda, I hope that's a little bit useful, but happy to engage further in that conversation. Have we lost Elton? Has Elton left us, Selvin?
I'll check, Louise.
I think so.
I think he's left.
No, guys. I'm still here. So thank you for the opportunity, Salvan and Louise. I just loved what Masego said earlier about people, sharing the burden. But sharing the burden goes with building the relationship and having that trust that we can do this. So when leaders, we as leaders, I'm part of the SMT team at my school. When we refer and we use a type of language that is inclusive, That's how we get people to buy into what we're doing. And if there's a connectivity, a connectedness to what we're trying to achieve, I think that will go a long way. But again, I think, Louise, you were the one that said earlier that some of these things, it takes time. You know, we can't just get into a meeting and just push through because we want an answer and we want a specific answer. If you don't allow people the opportunity to just think about certain issues, whether they agree or not, but those things people need time just to percolate and think. So what does this mean for me? What does this mean for the children going forward? We have to allow for things like that. And if you do that, and if people feel that I'm part of what we're doing, you can achieve wonderful things. But it's making sure that you stay connected and there's no disconnect in what you're trying to achieve.
And that you create opportunities for people to talk about it. So I was in a session last night and I was just reminded of Kurt Lewin, who's the founder of one of the founders of the Organisational Development Network, who just after the Second World War, they had to get people to eat food that wasn't appealing. So they had to eat offal and they had to eat, you know, pieces. And there was a lot of resistance to that. And Lewin was asked to deal with that resistance. And all he did, Elton, all he did is he got people in small groups. So he had a control group where they just gave people kind of recipes and a presentation and here's how we're going to do it and kind of, you know, traditional top-down stuff. And then he had another group and he did exactly the same. And then he created opportunity for people to talk about what they were being asked to do. And guess who was willing to eat the offal? It's the people who had the opportunity to talk about it. So there's just, I mean, we can't make enough of a case for people need to talk with other people about what they're grappling with. And our job as leaders is to create a space for them to do that. Yeah,
no, definitely, I agree.
And strengthen the relationship and create the sense of relatedness and connection between people so that they can have those honest conversations.
Yeah, 100%.
Anybody else want to say something, or are we coming to the end of our time together? Okay, I think we've reached the end of our session. Thank you, Selvin. Thank you, Nonhlanhla, for the opportunity. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Nonhlanhla said she's had 20 people who gave feedback. Obviously, we would love to have feedback from anybody else. And good luck with leading change and dealing with complexity and with this weird and wonderful creature called human beings that you have to work with. They are frustrating and wonderful at the same time. So good luck with that. And let us know.
Thank you, everyone.